I sat at the sleek, glass dining table, the soft glow of the chandelier reflecting on my navy silk blouse. The hum of the air conditioner mingled with the faint clink of silverware as my family chatted around me, unaware that tonight would change everything. I'd flown in for this dinner under the pretense of catching up, though they had no idea how much my life had changed since I left this house years ago. My phone vibrated softly against the polished wood. A text from my assistant flashed. Meeting rescheduled. Don't forget your call at 9 p.m. I tucked it away, focusing instead on the familiar tension in the room. Then Ryan spoke. So, I've been thinking. I might move back in here for a while. I froze mid-bite, feeling a flush of something I couldn't quite name, annoyance, amusement, maybe pride. This was their house now, not mine. I had walked away once and built my life quietly, meticulously. They hadn't seen the apartment with the skyline view, the small but booming consultancy I ran from scratch, or the independence I'd carved for myself. As he continued to talk about how convenient it would be to live here again, I felt a cold smile curve on my lips. Let him think this house was waiting for him. I had other plans, ones that would leave everyone, especially him, speechless. I remember the night I first realized I couldn't stay. I was 19, clutching my bedroom door like it was a lifeline, while my father, David, and my mother, Margaret, argued in the living room below. My voice had caught somewhere between protest and panic. "You're making a huge mistake, Olivia," my dad had said, his words sharp but coated in concern. "College is important, but don't forget your responsibilities here. The house, the family." "I am responsible," I had whispered, tears threatening to spill. "But not at the cost of my life." Ryan, much younger then, peeked from behind the staircase. His eyes were wide, confused, probably relieved that I was the one taking the heat. He didn't know yet that he'd be the reason I had to leave so decisively. I sank to the floor, my hands trembling as I held the small, worn notebook my grandmother, Evelyn, had given me. "Olivia," she had said with that steady, unwavering gaze only she could give, "you have to walk your path, even if it means leaving the people you love behind. The world will not wait for you to be ready. You must be ready for yourself." That notebook had become more than paper. It was a symbol of permission, of belief, of courage. Every word scribbled in her flowing script reminded me that independence wasn't selfish. It was survival. By the next morning, I had made my decision. I packed my clothes, my savings, and that notebook into a small duffel bag and left before anyone else woke. The drive away from that house, the one Ryan would one day try to move into, was surreal. Every mile felt like both loss and liberation. I had left my past behind, but not without pain. It wasn't just about the house or even the family. It was about proving, first to myself, that I could build a life that was fully mine, on my terms. I was scared, yes, but there was an exhilaration too, a thrill I would chase for the next decade. I didn't just leave that house. I reinvented myself. With my grandmother's notebook tucked into my backpack, I rented a small apartment in downtown Chicago, the kind with squeaky floors and a view of the train tracks. Every night, I spread out my notes, strategies, and dreams on the tiny kitchen table, turning what little I had into a blueprint for a new life. That's where Clara Reynolds came in. I met her at a networking event, an elegant woman in her 50s with sharp eyes that seemed to see right through pretense. "You've got potential," she had said, handing me her card. "Don't waste it trying to please people who don't see you. Build something that's yours." Her mentorship became my anchor. Long nights blurred into early mornings. I learned to navigate client negotiations, balance budgets, and market my services. I battled self-doubt constantly, the creeping voice that whispered, "You're not ready. You'll fail." But every small win silenced it a little more. I still remember my first big client. A local boutique had hesitated to work with me because I was young, a woman, and unknown. But I showed up prepared, confident, and precise. When the deal closed, the rush of triumph wasn't just about money. It was proof that I could do this on my own. Over the next few years, I grew steadily, quietly. I moved from that tiny apartment to a loft with skyline views and eventually started my own consultancy. I rarely posted updates on social media.
My family would assume I was struggling or barely scraping by.
That secrecy became a delicious shield, a way to protect the independence I had fought so hard to achieve. Even when Ryan occasionally called, asking questions about work or life, I kept details minimal. I learned to relish the quiet satisfaction of watching my empire grow without the need for validation from those who had doubted me. My mornings became a ritual, coffee brewing, fingers brushing over the notebook that still held my grandmother's words, laptop open to spreadsheets and client emails, my small apartment bathed in the golden glow of the rising sun. Every detail of my success was hard-earned, and I cherished it all in private. By the time I returned home for tonight's dinner, I was not the same young, uncertain girl who had fled a family she loved but didn't quite fit with. I was strong, resourceful, and utterly independent. And yet, seeing Ryan casually announce he was moving into our old house tonight, I could already feel the moment approaching when I'd finally let them see the real me. The doorbell rang, and my heart skipped, not from nervousness, but from anticipation. My parents and Ryan were finally here, expecting to see the struggling, uncertain girl they remembered. The same girl who had left them a decade ago. As they stepped into my apartment, my domain now, they paused. Margaret's eyes widened at the gleaming marble countertops, the carefully curated art, and the floor-to-ceiling windows revealing the city skyline. David's jaw tightened as he noticed the bookshelves stacked with awards and certificates from my consultancy. And Ryan, I could see the confusion flicker across his face. Olivia, wow, my mother whispered, almost afraid to speak louder. I smiled faintly, letting the silence stretch, letting them absorb every detail before I spoke. The expensive rug underfoot, the custom desk where contracts waited for my signature, the soft hum of classical music, all of it signaled one undeniable truth. I had made this life myself. Surprised? I asked softly, leaning against the edge of the desk. My voice was calm, composed, but carried an undertone that made them realize I wasn't the girl who had fled years ago. You thought I'd be struggling, maybe still unsure, maybe dependent. But look around. Ryan's mouth opened, then closed. Words failed him, just as they had failed my parents. I continued, letting the moment stretch. I own this place now. Not just the apartment, my company, my career, my life. I've built it from the ground up, without waiting for anyone's approval. David cleared his throat, guilt flashing in his eyes. Olivia, we didn't know. I shook my head gently. You didn't need to. This was never about showing off. This was about proving to myself that I could do it. And I did. Margaret's hands trembled slightly as she reached for the notebook on the desk. The same notebook my grandmother had given me, the one that guided me when I was just 19. She picked it up reverently. Olivia, all of this, you did this? I nodded, letting the pride and calm authority radiate in the room.
Yes.
Every late night, every client call, every challenge I faced it alone. And tonight, I welcome you here not as your little girl, not as Ryan's sister, but as a woman who has earned her space. Your assumptions, they were wrong. Ryan finally found his voice, but it came out small, unsure. So, the house isn't? I allowed a slight smile, almost playful.
No, Ryan.
It isn't. And that's why this moment is important for both of us. You need to understand that life doesn't hand you things just because you expect them. You have to earn your place, just like I did. The room was heavy with disbelief, awe, and the faint sting of guilt. I let it sit there, unspoken, before closing the moment with one last flourish. I've waited years for the right time to show you who I really am. Tonight, you see me, not the girl who left, but the woman who came back, stronger, smarter, and entirely in charge. Silence enveloped the room. And in that silence, I realized something profound. The power shift had already begun. I watched them absorb the weight of the revelation, their eyes darting between the skyline view and the array of awards lining the shelves. The moment of silence had passed, and now it was time to set the rules. Ryan, I began, my voice steady. You want to move back into the old house, do you? I won't stop you from trying, but let's be clear about one thing. That house, like everything in life, comes with responsibility. You need to have a job, a plan, and a sense of purpose before you walk in those doors. No freeloading. No excuses. And yes, this includes respect for your sister, because I won't allow the past to repeat itself. He opened his mouth, but I raised a hand. I'm serious. If you can meet these conditions, fine. Otherwise, find your own space. Learn what it means to contribute instead of assuming entitlement. Turning to my parents, I softened my tone just slightly, though firmness remained. Mom, Dad, I love you, but our family dynamics need to change if we want a future together. That means honesty, respect, and acknowledging that I am no longer the same girl you once guided or constrained. You need to listen without judgment and not undermine the progress I've worked so hard for. Margaret nodded, tears threatening, while David looked like he had just swallowed a bitter truth he couldn't spit out. I continued, letting my words settle in. And it's not just about me. This is your chance to grow too. Stop clinging to outdated expectations. Let go of control, support each other genuinely, and pursue the things that matter to you, not the versions of yourselves I left behind. I glanced at the notebook lying open on my desk. Grandma's words guided me. Walk your path, even if it's alone. I'm asking you now to walk yours, responsibly and deliberately. Meet me halfway, and we rebuild our relationship, not how it was but better. Ryan swallowed hard. I think I understand, he murmured, though I could see the gears turning in his mind, struggling to process the concept of earning rather than assuming. And remember, I added, letting my voice soften just enough to let them feel care, this isn't punishment. This is opportunity. You want to be part of my life again? You have to contribute positively. You want my help? I'll give it, but on terms that honor both me and you. That's non-negotiable. By the end of the night, the shift was undeniable. The old power dynamics, the assumptions of entitlement, the lingering doubts, they had all been rewritten. I wasn't just asserting authority. I was demonstrating that compassion and firmness could coexist, that love could be paired with accountability. For the first time in years, I felt not just vindicated, but truly free. Not free in the way of revenge, but free in the sense of having reclaimed my space, my life, and my family's respect, not through fear, but through the undeniable strength of my choices. The days after that dinner were quieter than I expected, but in a good way. Ryan began looking for his own apartment, taking small but deliberate steps toward responsibility. Margaret and David called more often, not to lecture, but to check in genuinely, curious about my work, my life, and the woman I had become. I watched them change, little by little, and it filled me with a sense of calm satisfaction I hadn't realized I'd been craving. Change wasn't immediate, but progress, true, thoughtful progress, was happening. Ryan sent me a photo of his new apartment a week later. A modest space, yes, but organized, purposeful, and entirely his own. I smiled, remembering the look of uncertainty on his face at the dinner table, and felt pride instead of resentment. One evening, I sat at my desk, the notebook my grandmother had given me open before me. Her words, "Walk your path, even if it means leaving the people you love behind," still resonated, stronger than ever. The notebook had guided me through fear, doubt, and loneliness, and now it felt like a bridge connecting my past self to the woman I had become. I traced the faded ink with my fingers and whispered a quiet thanks. I thought about how far I had come, from that 19-year-old girl who fled the family home, heart pounding, hands shaking, to the confident, independent woman who could now welcome her family on her terms. The journey hadn't been easy, but every challenge, every sleepless night, and every small victory had been worth it. Looking out over the city skyline, I realized that life had finally aligned with my vision, a life built on courage, self-respect, and unshakable independence. I had proven, first to myself and now to my family, that a woman could leave, fight, and return stronger, without apology, without compromise. I closed the notebook gently and looked toward the dining table where a quiet evening with my family awaited. This time, the presence of my loved ones brought warmth, not tension. The house was no longer just a symbol of what I had lost. It was a testament to what I had gained. And as I took a deep breath, letting the city lights shimmer through the windows, I knew it clearly. I am the author of my life, the owner of my story, and the keeper of my power.